The late summer garden in Tennessee is bound to have lots of tomatoes. These were planted early though. I'd like to talk about the late summer garden that's planted at the end of June all the way up to the end of July, ensuring that we have fresh vegetables through September and October. The late summer garden begins when the spring garden ends. This is a field of peppers here, and they're just beginning to color up at the end of August, beginning of September. We put the peppers out from our cold frames sort of mid to late June. We don't plant them very early because they love hot weather. We do put a mulch down, but only after the ground is thoroughly warmed will we put a mulch of hay down. So our farm grows lots of rolls of hay, so any ones that left over from last year's feeding of the cattle get used as mulches in the garden the next year. Peppers are a bit disease prone in a late Tennessee garden, and so I monitor for these kinds of problems. And when I see a pepper plant like this, I know from experience that it's not going to recover. So I like to get these peppers out of the field because I don't want this plant spreading disease. This field had onions in it, and we had a great crop of them. We harvest them towards the end of June, and because we keep onions pretty weed-free, I had a clean field that was ready to plant. So I planted it. We put a row of string beans down at the beginning with 3 rows of late sweet corn. This row right here is red rippers. And can you see how healthy these things are compared to the regular beans? That's because these are a cow pea. And these were a really important part of Tennessee agriculture before deer became a problem. So the marauding deers that are bothering everybody's gardens weren't here 100 years ago. The farmers had gotten rid of all the deer so that they could grow crops, particularly cowpeas. And they would have big fields of these cowpeas just as a cover crop because they're so valuable in the amount of organic matter they bring in and the nitrogen that comes from them being a legume. But look at how leathery the leaves are. Yeah, so these are called red rippers, but they're just relatives of black-eyed peas and whippoorwill peas. You might have heard of pink-eyed purple hulls or Mississippi crowders. There's all these kinds of cow peas, but I'm telling you right now, deer love them, so you have to have them inside of a deer fence or some sort of protection. Black beans grow great when they're planted late. We like to get our protein from the farm, so the nitrogen from the air becomes part of our bodies by going into the soil through the legume plants and then being eaten by us as beans. These are the black bean that can be eaten in the fresh stage. They cook up pretty quickly, and boy, they're mighty fine. We'll let these dry though. The majority of these will dry on the plant, and we'll harvest them and just put them in baskets up in the barn to further dry out, and where we can shell them at our leisure with our friends, probably in rocking chairs. Green beans are a must in a Tennessee late garden, and so we planted these at the end of June, right after I realized our spring beans weren't going to do anything because of that drought. But we'd gotten the onions out of the field. I had some space, so we just put a row of Blue Lake green beans in here, and they're just beginning to flower, so we should have some green beans before too long. The July 27th planting of yellow squash is in its prime now. We're just beginning to harvest it, and look how healthy the plants are compared to some of those older plants. So this third planting is perfect for September harvests. The summer squash variety we grow is yellow prolific straight neck. That's a mouthful, but they're a mighty fine mouthful when you eat them too. This is our third planting of cucumbers. They're not bearing yet, but they're beginning to flower, so this means that we will have some late cucumbers towards the end of September. We grow 2 varieties of cucumbers here, the market more make the dark green slicers, but we also grow National Pickling Cucumber to make those crisp, crunchy pickles that everybody loves. We love our Shelley beans, and our favorite would have to be the famous October bean. It also has a mouthful. The official name is Taylor's Dwarf Horticulture Bean. But we call them October beans because when you plant them in late July, you harvest them, guess what? In October. So these are ones that we can eat in the fresh Shelley stage or let dry on the plant and shell out for dry beans. Gardeners love to experiment. This year we're experimenting with late planting of pinto beans. So I don't know if there's going to be enough time for these to make. They take a few weeks longer than the October beans that we grow every year, but they look like healthy plants, and they have quite a bit of vining tendency. So I don't know if they should have been staked maybe, but we have these big long rows. I'm not going to stake them. So we'll just see how they do, and I'll have to let you know later if a July 27th planting of pinto beans will make in Middle Tennessee or not. The rest of the late summer garden field is planted in daikon radish. That's what this plant is right here, and it's the one that makes a big long white root. We also grow the watermelon radish, which makes a really kind of ugly little green thing that you cut it open and it's this gorgeous tie-dye red looking thing on the inside. Yeah, watermelon radish, really, really tasty. Good plant. But we wanted a nurse crop to put in here, so we use buckwheat, which is that plant that's so handy about improving soils by making calcium more available and loosening the soil with its nice root system. Love buckwheat. And we're also been experimenting with sun hemp or crotalaria. It's another legume. It doesn't look like one, but it's more like in a vetch family, I think. And it's a great plant for adding the nitrogen and carbon and oxygen from the air into the soil. And so we love to have legumes in our mixes. So this field then will, the buckwheat is like becoming a weed itself, but the radishes don't mind it too much, and Jack Frost is going to come here in a little while and lay all of this stuff down, and this will then be a big field of the daikon radishes. If Jack Frost comes a bit late, the radishes will suffer, but the pinto beans over there will do better. If Jack Frost comes early, we might not get pinto beans, but the radishes will be better. In gardening, always keep planting and you will always have some successes.
For inspiring garden tours, growing tips, and garden projects, visit our website at volunteergardener.org or on YouTube at the Volunteer Gardener channel, and like us on Facebook.